Okay, what does that sound? Is that you?
What sound? I don't hear anything.
That click, it's been going on for like 2 minutes. Are you
Yeah.
are you clicking your pen again?
Oh.
Stop. It's driving me absolutely crazy.
Whoa! What's up? I am awake. I'm here.
I know you're awake, but that pen, it sounds like a tiny machine gun. It's like this unconscious performance art piece you're doing.
Was I really clicking it? I'm so sorry. I didn't even notice.
You didn't notice at all.
No, I mean, it's truly automatic. Whenever I'm, processing information or really thinking hard about something, my thumb it just starts. I genuinely have zero conscious awareness of it.
Well, either stop processing information so hard or please get a silent pen. But wait, actually, hold on. That very automatic, deeply annoying action, it actually gives us our perfect focus for today.
It does. My annoying pen clicking.
Yes. Today, we are taking a long, detailed look at exactly those things. The things we do without thinking, the actions that govern our entire day. We're talking about habits. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to English Friends Chat.
Usually without the noisy pen.
We are thrilled you're joining us. Today, we're moving beyond just simple routines. We're really going to dig into the psychological foundations of our daily lives.
We are. Our behaviors, our routines, and, the often invisible structures that really determine our success or failure.
We'll cover the science, the psychology, and maybe most importantly, the essential English grammar and language structures you need to talk about these things clearly.
That's exactly right. I mean, if you really want to change your life, you have to understand your habits. You just have to. They are the engine of your daily experience.
They really are.
And when you look at the research, in cognitive science and behavioral psychology, the sheer magnitude of their influence it's truly staggering.
So tell us then, what does the research say? How much of our day is actually governed by these automatic routines? Because I suspect most people, myself included, think we're making rational, conscious decisions most of the time.
Most people do think that, and they're mistaken. The core scientific fact we need to just internalize right now is this. Scientists estimate that about 40% of what we do every single day is not a conscious, deliberate decision.
40%.
40%. It is merely a habit. It's a programmed sequence of actions stored deep in our brain, putting us on autopilot for almost half the day.
Wow. 40%. That's enormous. That means nearly every other action I take from the second I wake up until I go to sleep is just running on old pre-programmed software.
That's a great way to put it.
It's like my brain is just operating on the minimum effort principle.
That is precisely the mechanism. The brain, specifically a part called the basal ganglia, which is the section responsible for storing these routines, it loves efficiency.
Right. Thinking is hard work.
It is. Thinking requires a huge amount of energy. So if the brain can convert a frequent, repetitive action like making coffee, driving to work, or checking social media into a habit, it completely eliminates the need for conscious decision-making.
And that energy is saved for other things.
It's saved for solving new problems, for creativity, for things that actually require thought.
So habits are fundamentally our brain's way of maximizing energy savings. They're just cognitive shortcuts.
Exactly.
But, okay, if nearly half of our actions are non-conscious, it puts enormous pressure on choosing which shortcuts we install, doesn't it? If we install bad software, we're just repeating the error 40% of the time.
Absolutely. The identification of these automatic actions, that's step one in any self-improvement effort, whether it's in fitness, your career, or, and this is highly relevant to you listening, the consistent study of a language.
Right. So we need to know how to spot them.
We need to know how to identify them and linguistically how to describe them using key grammar structures that accurately convey how often they happen.
Okay, let's start right there. Let's define our terms. In simple language, what is the official definition of a habit?
A habit is fundamentally something you do often and regularly, usually without even thinking about it. They're automatic behaviors triggered by specific contexts or cues. Yes, there's a sequence. It's essentially cue, which is the trigger, then the routine, which is the action, and then the reward, the feeling you get after.
Okay, so CUE, routine, reward. Give me an example.
The classic one is brushing your teeth. The CUE might be waking up or finishing a meal. The routine is brushing your teeth. The reward is that clean, fresh mouth feeling.
Right. That makes sense. I don't need a motivational speech or a big decision matrix to decide if I should brush my teeth. I just do it. It's automatic, it's positive, and it's locked in.
Correct. And the routine itself is very rigid. Now, contrast that with an automatic action that might be, let's say, neutral or even negative, but it's equally reflexive.
Like what?
Think about this very common modern cue. The alarm goes off, you hit snooze, and the routine is checking your phone before your feet even hit the floor.
Oof. Yeah, that sequence is frighteningly common.
It is.
It's an automatic, often negative routine that starts the day with potential distraction, driven purely by the CUE of the phone just being right there.
And that leads us to the crucial distinction, the one that really determines our life's trajectory, the great divide between good habits and bad habits.
Okay.
The neurological pathway for both is identical. They are both ingrained routines, but the outcome is dramatically different.
So let's try to categorize these based on their long-term impact.
Yeah.
A good habit would be an action that provides delayed gratification and long-term benefit, right? It acts as a kind of positive force multiplier in your life.
Precisely. We're looking for what you could call high leverage habits. These are often the things that are a little boring or difficult in the moment.
But they pay off later.
They pay massive dividends later. Things like exercising, not necessarily intensely, but just consistently. Or establishing a specific reading routine.
Or even something as simple as drinking enough water during the day.
Yes. Or waking up early, which gives you that crucial quiet time before the demands of the world begin.
And bad habits, then, are the opposite. They're the actions that provide immediate, instant gratification. A quick dopamine hit, but result in negative long-term consequences that hurt your health or waste your time or sabotage your goals.
And the list here is, well, it's endless, isn't it? And it's constantly evolving with technology.
Sir.
It includes the obvious ones like smoking or eating too much sugar. It includes reflexive behaviors like nail biting, which is often driven by stress.
And then there are the more subtle ones, right?
Exactly. The more insidious ones like mindlessly refreshing your social media feeds, that completely wastes time while giving you the illusion of being engaged. And of course,
Pen clicking.
pen clicking, we'll put that on the list too.
Okay, so to make this really relevant, let's talk about some specific habits we've installed in our own lives. I think my most foundational habit, my personal keystone, is that I always make my bed immediately after waking up. I never leave the room until the bed is smooth and perfect.
That's fascinating because on the surface, it seems like such a small, almost trivial action. Why do you prioritize it, even on weekends when you're completely relaxed?
Because it creates an immediate feeling of order and control. It's a very small success right at the start of the day.
A small win.
Exactly. And according to a lot of sources, these small wins create momentum. If you start the day with a small success, you're psychologically primed to seek another one. It kind of sets my identity for the day. I'm an organized person who handles their business.
That is an incredibly valuable insight into how identity shapes behavior. The small habit defines the self. I try to do this, but I confess my biggest self-sabotaging habit is entirely mental, and it's the great enemy of consistent application. Procrastination.
Procrastination. That is a word that I think often carries a lot of shame or judgment. We need to define it precisely because it's such a powerful, detrimental habit.
It's complex. Procrastination is not laziness. That's the first thing to understand.
Right. It's different.
It's the voluntary delay of an intended and necessary course of action, despite knowing that this delay will result in negative consequences.
So it's an internal conflict.
It's a huge internal conflict where the part of your brain seeking immediate comfort completely overpowers the part seeking long-term success.
So it's not just being a little late. It is a fundamental failure of self-regulation. For instance, knowing a big report is due on Friday, but choosing to watch a movie or clean your inbox instead of starting until Thursday night at 11 p.m.
Exactly. The brain prioritizes the temporary relief from the difficult task. That immediate feeling of, I don't have to deal with that stress right now. That's the reward in the habit loop.
And the consequences, the panic, the stress, the lower quality work, they're delayed, so the brain just ignores them in the moment.
Maybe pushes them down the road.
And when we connect this to the challenge of learning anything, especially a new language, procrastination is, well, it's catastrophic. Language acquisition requires daily, consistent effort.
Absolutely. You cannot cram 5 weeks of English practice into one Thursday night panic session. The brain just doesn't acquire complexity that way.
No.
If you consistently delay your practice, your fluency will suffer, and you'll just feel perpetually stuck in this loop of low-quality output and high stress. Consistency beats intensity every single time when it comes to acquiring complex skills.
That is the perfect segue. Speaking of consistency, we want to help you build a powerful, beneficial habit right now, the habit of knowledge acquisition.
Yes. The best habit you can cultivate is committing to consistent intellectual practice and making these conversations a mandatory part of your routine. We deliver detailed, vetted insights, saving you the work of sifting through dozens of sources yourself.
So if you're finding this discussion valuable and the depth of our analysis useful, please just take a second and hit the like button right now. That small, easy action helps the algorithms identify that this kind of detailed analysis is what people need, and it helps more people discover our community.
And don't forget the ultimate commitment. Subscribe to the channel. Make learning from this program a new, non-negotiable daily practice habit. Consistent, dedicated practice, even if it's just for 15 minutes a day, will fundamentally change your progression.
Okay, let's move from the what and why of habits to the how. If almost half of what we do is habitual, we need a really precise way to articulate the frequency of these actions. This leads us directly to the grammar toolkit required for talking about routine.
Right. When we're discussing habits, which are repeated, ongoing actions, we primarily rely on the present simple tense. But to truly convey information, simply stating, I drink coffee is, well, it's insufficient. It lacks context.
It does. I need to know. Do you drink coffee once a year, once a month, or 10 times a day? To make your communication precise and interesting, we need adverbs of frequency.
These are the tools that quantify the percentage of your automatic behavior.
So let's visualize this for everyone with a scale from 100% down to 0%. We're measuring the predictability of a given behavior.
Okay, at the very top, 100%, meaning it's completely non-negotiable, we use the word always. This occurs every single time, without exception.
For instance, I always brush my teeth at night. That's a 100% habit. There's no variance.
Exactly. Or I always turn off the stove before leaving the kitchen, a 100% safety habit.
Okay, stepping down slightly into maybe the 85 to 95% range we find usually. This implies consistency most days or almost every time, but it allows for rare exceptions.
For example, I usually have coffee for breakfast. Maybe one day the machine is broken or I'm running super late, so I skip it. But 9 out of 10 days, that routine is in place. It's predictable.
Right. Moving to the middle, around 50%, we have sometimes. This indicates the action isn't mandatory, but it's not rare either. The probability is balanced, depending entirely on context or mood.
I sometimes review my notes from the morning meeting in the afternoon. It's a genuine 50-50 choice. If the afternoon is busy, I don't. If I have some downtime, I do. It reflects a balanced unpredictability.
Now we enter the territory of infrequent actions, down around, say, 10 to 20%. This is where we use the word rarely. These actions stand out precisely because they do not happen often.
This is where we confess our inconsistencies. My habit example is I rarely go to the gym. I know I should, but in practice, it's an infrequent event.
See, that's the power of rarely. It signals a low occurrence, but not zero. It's an honest assessment.
It is. And finally, at the absolute bottom of our scale, 0%, we find never. This is reserved for actions you absolutely do not perform.
That once.
Not once. For example, I never eat broccoli. People find it funny, but it's true. It tastes like small green trees to me.
Okay, fair enough. So I never eat broccoli is a 0% habit. The habit of refusal is at 100%.
Precisely.
So understanding this scale is critical, but the structural placement of these words is what truly differentiates a fluent and precise speaker from someone who is maybe struggling a bit. We must know where to put these adverbs in a sentence.
This placement rule is absolutely central to achieving natural, smooth English delivery. If you break this rule, the sentence structure immediately sounds jarring, even if the meaning is technically clear.
So what's the rule?
The general crucial rule is that adverbs of frequency typically go before the main verb, the action verb. This is the standard placement for most verbs.
So think of the frequency word as modifying the action directly. If the action is drink, the adverb comes first.
Right. I always drink coffee. You must avoid saying I drink always coffee. That placement sounds highly artificial, like a direct translation.
Okay, so other examples follow this pattern rigidly. She usually reads before bed. Or we rarely discuss politics at the dinner table. The adverb is tucked right in front of the active verb.
But, as with every useful rule in English,
There's an exception.
there is always an exception, driven by that one peculiar verb that demands its own rules, the verb to be.
Of course, the constant exception to the rule. So if the verb in your sentence is to be, so am is are what happens.
The frequency word flips, it goes after the verb.
This is a point that requires repetition and internalization, I think. If someone is consistently on time, we don't say, he always is on time.
No, we must structure it as, he is always on time.
Or, to describe a state of being that's never experienced, you are never sad. The adverb never is placed after the are. Master this exception, because using it correctly immediately elevates the fluidity of your speech.
It really does. And the ability to quantify the habits in your life, whether they are 100% mandatory or 0% non-existent, is the first step toward gaining control over that 40% of automatic behavior.
Now that we've covered current ongoing routines, let's pivot to the actions we used to perform regularly but have completely stopped. This requires a unique and extremely useful grammar structure.
Used to.
Ah, yes. The phrase used to, that's USED followed by to, is dedicated entirely to describing discontinued past regularity,
It signifies a habit or a state that was true in the past.
but is emphatically not true in the present. It communicates a change in identity or routine. It's a powerful tool for contrast. Before we delve into the meaning, we need to address a common stumbling block for learners, the pronunciation. Because it's followed by that to sound, the final D in used is often very soft. It sounds more like used to or used to.
That's a great point. If you pronounce a hard deed sound like used deed to, it can often sound a little unnatural.
Right, the soft, quick pronunciation is key. So when you say, I used to play the saxophone, what's the implied meaning?
The implied meaning is immediate and clear. I played the saxophone regularly, maybe every day or every week, for a period of time in the past, but that practice is entirely finished now. The habit is over.
So it's an excellent linguistic tool for contrasting your past self with your present self. You can talk about your childhood, your college days, or a previous job where your routine was totally different.
Let's apply this to some real-life habits. For me, a habit I've definitely abandoned. I used to sleep until 12 p.m. on weekends when I was a teenager. I was a very heavy sleeper.
Oh, I did that too. Not anymore.
No, not at all. Now my body just automatically wakes me up early, even if I don't want it to. I used to sleep in, but now I can't.
Okay, what about a habit that was detrimental, something you were determined to kick? And kick a habit is an essential idiom here, isn't it? It means to stop a bad behavior forcefully.
It is. A difficult habit I managed to kick was drinking soda. I used to drink soda every single day with lunch. It wasn't just a treat, it was a daily requirement, a fixed part of my routine.
That regular sugar intake creates a powerful dependency leap. It's a classic example of a habit that gives immediate pleasure, but really limits your energy and focus later in the day.
Precisely. It was just dragging down my afternoon productivity. So I analyzed the routine and realized it was triggered by the time of day and the act of eating lunch. I had to force myself to kick the habit. I stopped about 2 years ago.
And now,
Now the habit is gone. I successfully replaced the routine with water or unsweetened tea. I used to drink soda daily, but I don't anymore.
that is a significant behavioral shift, and the used to structure perfectly captures that contrast. Now, we arrive at the grammar point that causes the most difficulty for writers. How do we construct the negative form of used to?
This is where even advanced speakers sometimes hesitate. When we construct the negative form, we must use the helper verb did, and the construction becomes didn't used to, spelled U-S-E, without the D.
And the fundamental grammatical reasoning here is ironclad, right? Because the auxiliary verb did already carries the past tense marker, the main verb use must revert to its base form.
Exactly. You must write, I didn't used to like English, but now I love it. You would never write didn't used to. That's grammatically redundant and incorrect in written English.
But, and this is the speaking paradox, when we articulate didn't used to quickly, the pronunciation often sounds identical to the positive form used to.
It does. The D and T sounds kind of merge together. This is a blessing for conversation, but a real trap for formal writing.
So the key is to remember the structural logic for writing. If did or didn't is present, the verb following it must be in its base form.
Let's end this section with a positive application of that negative form.
Okay. I didn't used to like waking up early, but now it's my favorite part of the day.
Perfect. And that kind of dedication brings us to the final, most crucial element of our discussion. The path forward, actively building and sticking to new positive habits.
Starting a new habit, like a consistent English study routine, it requires massive initial willpower. It feels incredibly unnatural at first, and there's this popular theory that floats around about the timeline for this.
Ah, yes. The pervasive, sticky, and often frustrating belief that it takes exactly 21 days to form a new habit.
It has become like gospel in self-help culture.
It has.
So is it true? Is the 21-day rule the golden standard for habit formation?
Unfortunately, no. It is mostly a myth, and a very misleading one at that.
Really? Where did it come from?
It's a fascinating story. It stems from the work of a plastic surgeon in the 1950s, a Dr. Maxwell Maltz. He observed that his patients often took about 21 days to get used to seeing their new face, or for amputees, to adjust to a missing limb.
So you just noted it as an anecdotal minimum time for mental adjustment.
Yes, it was an observation about body image adjustment, not complex behavioral programming. But somehow that got misinterpreted and repeated until it became this universal rule for building habits like running or studying.
And popular culture loved the number 21 because it sounds achievable. 3 weeks seems manageable.
Of course. But modern research, particularly studies published in the European Journal of Social Psychology, they paint a much less convenient picture.
So what is the scientific reality? How long does it actually take for a new behavior to stop requiring conscious effort and become truly automatic?
The studies show that it takes approximately 66 days on average for a new behavior to solidify into an automatic habit.
66 days.
66. And that's just the average. For some complex habits, it took participants over 250 days.
Wow. 66 days. That is more than 2 full months of dedicated, potentially difficult consistency. This fact is so important for our listeners who might abandon new habits too early.
It's the reason for massive failure rates. People start a new habit, say, practicing English grammar for 30 minutes every morning, and when it still feels hard and requires high willpower after 25 days, they assume they're failures.
Because they passed the mythical 21-day mark.
Exactly. The key takeaway is, if it still feels difficult after 3 weeks, that is perfectly normal. You just need more time for that neural pathway to solidify in the basal ganglia.
So persistence is everything. And persistence requires embracing a core concept encapsulated in the phrasal verb, stick to it.
Stick to it. This means to continue doing something, to hold firm to your decision, even when your initial motivation has completely vanished.
Even when it's inconvenient or when you're tired.
Yes, you stick to the plan like glue sticks to paper.
This shift is crucial. You have to rely on your systems, not on your feelings. If I feel tired after work, my system says, open the English book. My feeling says, watch television. To succeed, I must stick to the system, ignoring the feeling.
Because willpower is a limited resource. It inevitably fails you. Systems and environmental design are what make habits stick. And the single most effective tool for system design that bypasses the need for high willpower is called habit stacking.
Habit stacking. Okay, that sounds like an architectural approach to behavior. How does it function?
It's based on a simple but powerful idea. You take an existing, completely established habit, a behavior you already perform 100% of the time, effortlessly, and you immediately add a new desired habit right after it.
So the formula is, after I do my current habit, I will do my new habit.
That's the formula. The genius of it is that the existing habit acts as a stable, robust trigger or cue. You don't have to remember to do the new habit. You only have to remember to link it to the old one.
It's like the old habit pulls the new one along with it.
It does, because the neurological path is already worn deep. It leverages the predictability of the old routine to install the new one, and that reduces the conscious decision-making associated with starting something new.
Let's give a practical example relevant to learning. Suppose a listener always makes a specific breakfast every morning. That's their current established habit. How do they stack a new study routine onto that?
The stack might be: after I turn off the stove and put my plate on the counter, the established habit, I will immediately listen to 10 minutes of English news comprehension, the new habit. The smell of the food, the sight of the plate, these become the irresistible cue for the next behavior.
Or, using a less pleasant but equally universal trigger, after I take out the trash in the evening, I will spend 5 minutes reviewing my notes from this session. The chore acts as the trigger for the intellectual effort.
That is the beauty of it. You never forget to take out the trash, so by stacking them, the brain associates the cue of the finished chore with the start of the study session. It links the two behaviors tightly and consistently.
I'm going to try that immediately. I will stack putting away the dinner dishes with reviewing 5 key concepts from the day. It capitalizes on the brain's desire for a continuous routine flow.
Precisely. And speaking of routines, I am proud to say I have maintained perfect pen silence for the duration of this conversation.
You have.
Which proves that awareness and commitment are the first steps to kicking a bad habit. I have stuck to my commitment.
You did. And that brings us to the end of a very productive and detailed conversation.
Yeah.
I feel much more equipped now to analyze my own routines and deploy the right language to describe them.
Me too. Let's give our listeners a comprehensive recap, focusing on the keywords and structures they need to internalize to make all this knowledge useful.
Okay. First, remember the definition of a habit. An automatic action accounting for nearly 40% of our daily behavior, all driven by cognitive efficiency.
We identified the key enemy of long-term progress. procrastination, that voluntary delay of necessary action despite knowing the negative consequences.
We practice the necessary linguistic tools, the scale of frequency adverbs. Always, usually, sometimes, rarely. Never for quantifying our current routines.
And please remember that placement rule for fluency. Before the action verb, but after the verb, to be. This is so crucial for natural speech.
We covered the specific grammar structure used to for past habits that are now completely finished. I used to delay, but now I don't.
And finally, the essential strategy for success, the phrasal verb, stick to it. That's the persistence needed to push past the difficult initial weeks. Remember the scientific truth. It takes, on average, 66 days, not 21.
And use habit stacking to anchor your new behaviors to your existing ones.
Exactly.
Now, we have our final provocative thought and our question of the day. This is your chance to engage with this material actively.
We want you, our listener, to use the precision language we've discussed today. What is one BID habit you want to kick to stop this with? Or what is one good habit you want to start using the stacking strategy we just talked about?
Think about the implementation intention. Write down commitment. After I get off the bus, I will. Or after I brush my teeth, I will. Write it down. That act of writing a commitment is the crucial first step to turning an intention into a self-sustaining reality.
Thank you so much for joining us for this in-depth look at behavioral psychology and the language of routine. We appreciate every single one of you who is committed to continuous learning.
Have a wonderful day, and we look forward to seeing you for the next video.
Bye, everyone.